Oh no, Miami. What happened?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another reaction episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin. Thank you all so much for making this your first listen or your first view post first wave craziness. Tons of game to still get to later today, but wanted to get a show up because so much happened. Ohio State is great. Arch Manning, I have to eat a little bit of crow on that one. Houston goes down. What in the world? So many things to get to. This episode brought to you by our friends at Mazda. Like the players of your favorite team, they sweat every detail. Maybe not Miami, because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. It happened again. Mario Cristobal loses to an unranked team for the second time in 3 weeks. And this time, the team he loses to, SMU, I don't think is about to catapult themselves into the top 25. But Miami now has almost no clear path to make the ACC championship game. They have no assurance that they are going to make the college football playoff. And they have no one to blame but themselves. SMU didn't even play that great of a game. Miami's dominance up front was prevalent right until overtime began, when the Mustangs literally just handed the ball off over and over and over, following a Carson Beck interception. The problems that have plagued Miami at times this year, they all showed up. Why in the world was this game as close as it was? SMU's fine. SMU's a capable team. I could have understood Miami squeaking out a 3 or 7 or 8 point win, not covering the 10.5 point spread there or something like that. But the fact that Miami, when the game was on the line, wasn't able to make the stops on defense in overtime or towards the end of regulation, not great. Not great. The worst of vibes here for Miami fans. Michael Irvin can't be in a very good mood because what he saw was a team that, again, just looked flat. They just looked flat. And they did this once at home against Louisville. They did it on the road here against SMU. And Mario Cristobal he's feeding the narrative. He's feeding the narrative. That's what he's doing in this spot. Because for him to go and lose this game when you have everything in front of you, you control your own destiny. You are playing 5 teams to end the year that have no business talent-wise to be on the same field as you. SMU is probably the closest of the 5. But the problem for Miami is they just never look like they can do anything but play to the level of their opponent. I continue to believe that Notre Dame's a good team. I don't think Notre Dame should automatically be in the playoff. Miami's now running into the same problem here. Even if the Hurricanes, and let's not pretend that this is a given, because Virginia Tech can, play with house money in a couple weeks on the road, and NC State, Syracuse, they're not that good, but I don't know that they're complete and utter disasters. I mean, Syracuse was horrible on Friday against North Carolina, but Pitt on the road last week of the regular season. Here's the other problem for Miami. In addition to continually not being able to trust that your team is going to get up and play above the level of their opponent, because earlier this year, Notre Dame's a good team. That's still a really good win. And the Canes have looked great all year. But now in the second half of the season, this is just another example of, man, they just don't go out and have the killer instinct that they need. They do not have the ability as a staff, as a team, to go out and put together a complete performance and maximize their potential. They don't. And Carson Beck threw another late game interception. It was the Louisville game all over again. This had to feel like deja vu for Hurricanes fans. I thought Miami would squeak it out. I certainly didn't think they were going to win this game big, but I tell you what, Miami now, I don't think they control their own path to the playoff. They could get there. I don't think it's a given at all. Because if you look up at the end of this season, their best win is going to be Notre Dame. That helps a whole heck of a lot. But these losses are not looking particularly good. We'll see how the Louisville one stacks up over time. But does 10-2 Miami, by the way, let's not forget, Miami was 10-2 last season. And they followed this same arc, got off to a hot start, had a couple of solid wins, and then in the second half of the season, it just hasn't worked out. And this falls on Mario Cristobal and Carson Beck above anybody else. Anybody else. Coach Cristobal, you got to give him credit for making a change of defensive coordinator. That wasn't the problem, though they weren't able to come up with a stop when they needed it. SMU couldn't run the ball for their life in this game. You cannot look anywhere but the coaching staff for why a game was lost when your opponent ran for 23 yards. And about 24 of them came in overtime. I think they had 2 yards at rushing at the end of regulation. And yet, SMU found a way to win the game. That is just gross mismanagement, poor situational football from Miami across the board. So, what a day for SMU. They're 4-1 in the ACC, by the way. Just throwing that out there. The head-to-head with Miami, I mean, I'm just throwing it out that my SMU 6-3. In no way should the Mustangs be an at-large team to the college football playoff. But I don't know if Miami is going to be guaranteed because they were 10-2 last year. They didn't get in. BYU was 10-2 last year. They didn't get in. But frankly, I don't even know if Miami is going to win the rest of their games this season. They've got 2 at home and 2 on the road. They've got no bye week to settle things down and get right. Nope. This was my concern with the Hurricanes coming into this year and why I picked them at 9-3. Before the season began, I didn't love the way the schedule set up. They have to figure this stuff out on the fly. They cannot lose, and I don't know how much they control their own destiny. But one team that does is Ohio State. They started slow. This was a close game at the half. Couldn't quite figure out why. And then I realized, oh, wait, Ohio State's just sleepwalking. Ohio State is just cruising along, and they fumbled at the end of the first half, and that turned into a Penn State touchdown when Ohio State was up 10, driving to go up more. Yeah, 21-0 in the second half. Ohio State wins, covers. That was one of my best bets coming into this week. The Buckeyes are just, again, doing all that they really can. They played a poor first half of football. Okay, but what'd you do in the second half? The opposite of Miami. Okay, the Hurricanes didn't play a great half of football. But here's the difference between a great team and a good team. Miami's a good team, but here's why we're seeing them become a team that is not great. Ohio State turns it on. Ohio State snaps into focus. Ohio State figures out how to create a big edge, and Miami just doesn't do that. Miami just hasn't done that in these big games, not since South Florida, who, again, is a good group of 5 team, but they're not the best group of 5 team. I'll talk about one of the best group of 5 teams later on today's show. But Julian Sain is now, according to FanDuel, the betting favorite to win the Heisman Trophy, and there's a reason for that. Today, he went 20 of 23 against Penn State and former Ohio State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles, 316 yards and 4 touchdowns, 2 Buckeye receivers over 100 yards, Jeremiah Smith 2 scores, and Carnell Tate with 1. This offense that early in the season looked kind of out of sync, disconjointed, not a clear identity, yeah, they're finding it. The groove is coming along for this Buckeyes offense, and they continue to look like, to me, the best team in college football. And yeah, Indiana is also really good. They play Maryland later today on the road as a favorite, about 3 touchdowns. But the difference between Miami and Ohio State, I couldn't help but draw that contrast in my head. Miami didn't play a great first half. Ohio State didn't play a great first half. Ohio State went 21-0 in the second. Miami got outplayed in the second half. That is the difference between a playoff team and a fringe playoff team. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all of that good stuff. I owe Arch Manning his due credit. I do. Because Arch Manning has got Texas in a position I just did not believe he'd get them to. First, this episode brought to you by Mazda's moving the game forward for those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than simply put points on the board. They move crowds, move culture, and keep moving the game forward. This week's moment, the move the game forward, is the performance by Arch Manning against Vanderbilt and the first play of the game. He throws it behind the line of scrimmage, and Ryan Wingo gives him the ultimate confidence boost. Nothing makes you feel better as a quarterback than just an easy pitch out. And what do you know? I've got a 75-yard touchdown to my box score stats today because Arch Manning, that's all he had to do. Then he settled in, and they kept with the short passing game, and then things started to open up. And Arch Manning looks like the guy that Texas fans were hoping for. That has done more than just put points on the board and a victory on the board today for Texas. That could be a playoff game-changing moment. that built Arch's confidence. And you got to go back to last week, too. When you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. Just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. I have been an Arch critic, hater, skeptic, whatever word some people might want to throw out there. I can't be that in this moment because that would be dishonest commentary. And I have to eat a little bit of crow here on the show. I jumped ship on Arch Manning too early. I was waiting for him to progress the way that Julian Sayin has. And Julian Sayin started to do it sooner. But these two guys have actually followed this season a very similar trajectory. Neither guy was particularly good, first full year starting in the first month of the season. And then Sayin, I saw signs of him figuring it out, and I saw Arch not doing that. Steve Sarkisian gets a lot of credit here because Arch Manning is playing really good football the last couple of weeks. 25 of 33, 328 yards and 3 touchdowns against Vanderbilt. Now, it did help, and I'll get to Vanderbilt in just a moment, that the Commodores might not have been able to tackle me if I'd been carrying the football out there. But early in this game, I was having a flashback to a game I talked about and have mentioned a couple times since it happened earlier this year, and that was Auburn at Baylor. Auburn went to Baylor, and Jackson Arnold ran the ball really well and threw a bunch of RPOs, and Auburn won 38-24 in a game that I'd picked Baylor to win. And my takeaway from the game was, okay, I was wrong and overvalued Baylor in this particular spot. I had them pretty spot on coming into the year, but I didn't think that Auburn would win the game. They did, full credit. However, I'm not sure Jackson Arnold has really made steps as a passer. I got a lot of flack for that. Jackson Arnold, by the way, has been benched since that point in time during the season. We'll see how it goes today. But in that game, it was a lot of dink and dunk. It was a lot of RPO. It wasn't pushing the ball down the field and making those sorts of plays. And early in this game, I was ready to have that same takeaway with Arch and say last week was a fluke, last week was an aberration. You look at what he's actually doing. In the first half, Arch Manning averaged just over 1.2 air yards per completion. Do you realize how the 75-yard touchdown to begin the game was thrown behind the line of scrimmage? So for the Longhorns, offensively, I commended them as the game was going on, just, by myself in my head watching the game, thinking, okay, Steve Sarkisian's playing this smart. He knows the advantage he has. He's leaning into it, and that's what any coach should do. It's what Hugh Freeze should have done in that game. But as the game went on, we started to see more of the Arch Manning from last week carry over into this game. Vanderbilt's a good team. And don't let the final score fool you. I didn't have this as a best bet. Disgusting backdoor cover from Vanderbilt, by the way. Line closed Texas minus 3.5, and 34-31 is the final. Do not let anyone or the numbers or anything let you believe that this game was close. Texas was way better. And the age-old question in college football, is Texas back? We'll see. We'll see. This is a really impressive win because they came out and were ready to go from the jump. And they looked in a number of different areas like a significantly better team. That's just the reality. And Arch Manning was a big part of that. Diego Pavia didn't play horribly in this game. The Texas defense looked the way that I've thought they would be all season long. Their front seven is nasty, and Vanderbilt had no shot. I mean, no shot to block Colin Simmons. He was unguardable for that Vandy offensive line. And I talked about the running game in this one. Texas won the ground matchup, by the way. Neither team ran it for a bunch of yards, but Texas finally hit 100, exactly 100, by the way. They had done that or more just once in the last 4 games. They had 3 or 4 under 100 yards. But Vanderbilt, who I told you runs for 200 yards a game, they went for 58. And this Commodores team isn't meant to be unbalanced. And I felt like Texas didn't necessarily need to run it as much as Vandy needed to have offensive success. I still believe that's the case. But if you take it away from Vanderbilt, that's going to be a lot more costly. So Arch Manning looked really good. He made a lot of throws in this game. The touchdown as he got hit into the back of the end zone to Emmett Mosley. Some of the downfield throws, the accuracy, he looks calmer. The footwork has improved. All the stuff that was a problem earlier this season, Arch Manning against a good Vanderbilt team here looked really good. He looked really, really good. So I might have jumped the gun earlier this year on Arch Manning, saying they need to find a better option for next year because he has progressed significantly. That much is evident. And so Texas is now in a spot going forward where they control their own path to get into the playoff. Now, I sincerely hope for the sake of college football, the 9-3 Texas doesn't get into the playoff. I don't want that to happen. Texas still has to go at Georgia, and they have to play Texas A&M. I believe that game is on the road as well. Yeah, they have Texas A&M is at home, beg your pardon. So if they win those games and avoid maybe a trap game kind of spot against Arkansas at home, then yes, Texas will be in the college football playoff and should be. But at 9-3, I'm not going to just overlook a loss to a Florida team that was never good. No, I know some people ranked them before the year. I did not think that they should have been in that position, and lo and behold, here we are. So that loss still needs to hold weight. But if Texas, that just beat a top 10 Vanderbilt team that the AP and myself had in the top 10, if they go on the road and beat Georgia and they beat Texas A&M, yep, put them in the playoff. But this has been a radical shift for the Longhorns to go from we have to carry Arch to, hey, Arch actually looks like the guy that we thought he would be before the season. And I thought this would show up a lot sooner, more so than with Julian Sain, because Arch has been in the same system for the last couple of years. It has taken some time, but he looks like he is arriving right now. Another test next week, or next game. Rather, I don't remember if it's next week or not off the top of my head. But when they go play Georgia, that game, they have a bye, and then they go to Georgia. Georgia's defense not what it used to be. Still going to be an incredibly tough environment. Really fun, exciting football game. So is Texas back? That depends on how you define back. I don't think they're the best team in all of college football. I do think they are playing way better than they were at one point earlier this season. And I have to give them credit for that because I've been very critical. And then there's Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt is going to spend the next week thinking about what could have been, what might have been, what should have. Okay. Vanderbilt came out so unprepared to play this football game. Clarkley is going to, I'm sure, put some of that blame on himself. He should. The players also need to take accountability. The tackling in this game was horrific. Texas was rolling out guys that were getting injured every other play, and yet Vanderbilt couldn't get them on the ground at any point in time. The first play was emblematic of what happened the rest of the game. Vanderbilt just flat out couldn't make stops. They just couldn't. The Texas offensive line played one of its best games of the year. The Vanderbilt defensive line was nowhere to be seen. The Vanderbilt offensive line was completely inept. I mean, completely and utterly inept. So on my fan mood assessment, good vibes for Texas here. Bad vibes for Vanderbilt. I don't go to the extreme with either one because Vanderbilt, I think, should still control their own destiny to get themselves into the college football playoff. Because remember, Vanderbilt still has just 2 losses on the year. They've got some quality wins. And do not forget, they play Auburn and Kentucky at home and last week of the regular season at Tennessee. If the Vols beat Oklahoma, you could have an in-state battle at Neyland and the winner goes to the playoff. That's what I would like to see. Because one of the reasons I have long exposed the expansion of the college football playoff is that it's much more difficult because of the added wiggle room to set up matchups that have a win and in sort of situation. Vanderbilt would have been eliminated from the playoff today in the old format. They're still in it here in the 12-team era, but if they beat Auburn, if they beat Kentucky, that would be an unbelievable scene in Knoxville. Unbelievable scene. To have Vanderbilt, if you have 9-2 Tennessee and 9-2 Vanderbilt, winner goes to the playoff, I would be so here for it. So unbelievably here for it. But Vanderbilt has so many things they have to clean up. They got exposed in this game in a couple of areas, mostly the offensive line. The inability to run the ball. The only reason Vanderbilt had, how many rushing yards did they even have in this game? The Commodores as a team ran for 58 yards. Okay, 43 of them were from Diego Pavia. Cedric Alexander was completely taken away. And most of those Diego Pavia rushing yards came on quarterback scrambles. Okay, this was an offense, and you see this with Oklahoma sometimes, or maybe even Haynes King from time to time at Georgia Tech. It's just the quarterback, and he's got to do everything, and there's not enough help. Texas gave Arch Manning a lot of help in this game. Diego Pavia just didn't have a whole heck of a lot. Made some throws, threw for a bunch of yards, but a lot of those were garbage time stats as Texas's lead was big and they're trying to not give up the big play. So I think that for the Commodores going forward, yeah, you still have the ability to go to the playoff. You still should control your own destiny to get there. However, you have some serious stuff to pick up. You have to figure out how to be better on the offensive line or how to navigate around it. I thought Greg McElroy did a great point during the broadcast pointing out that Vanderbilt kept going with long developing run plays, and then that just allowed Texas's really good front seven to get downhill and make plays in the backfield. So that has to be corrected from a schematic standpoint. And then defensively, man, you have to tackle better. I mean, you just have to tackle better. No other way to see it. It was a pathetic display of tackling from the Commodores. But Texas, Vanderbilt was a fun game to watch. And guess what? Both teams control their own path to the playoff. The same could be said for another team in the state of Texas. First, this episode brought to you by DoorDash. It is the weekend. Time to look back at the morning slate of games and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered. Powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. I mentioned Arch Manning earlier in the show, and yeah, that's a guy who played really well. But how about Julian Sayin and Jeremiah Smith linking up for a big day for a 38-14 win over Penn State? Look, the Nittany Lions are in a bad spot right now, but they were giving Ohio State all they could handle. They turned it on in the second half. Julian Sayin and the Buckeyes offense continuing to look better and better. Sayin is really good if you haven't watched him because Ohio State hasn't played a big game in a hot minute. The Buckeyes have got their guy at quarterback for the next couple of years, and he looks like a bona fide Heisman contender. Oh, look at that. FanDuel's got him as the Heisman betting favorite. Just like he delivered for Ohio State, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. This episode also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. Keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. And perhaps most importantly, FanDuel's got college football, and my best bets have been pretty hot. 2-1 so far with a couple of games still to go. I would love a third straight winning week. I'm inching back closer to 500. Let's just ignore the first month of the season. It's been real good. If you think that I'm going to stay hot the rest of the year, you can ride the picks the rest of the season over at FanDuel. If you think I'm going to regress back to the mean in the coming week, you can fade the picks or you can pick your own over at FanDuel. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Houston fans can't be feeling good, at least those that were actually at the stadium on Saturday. I'll get to that in just a moment. 45-35, the Cougars go down. West Virginia waltzes into Houston and just blows out the 22nd ranked Houston Cougars. Yikes. Yikes. This is not a good look for Houston. However, in my fan mood assessment, bad vibes for Houston, not the worst. For West Virginia, the highest, because Rich Rodriguez has his first Big 12 win and continues to have a proof of concept in year one. The win over Pitt, which continues to look better as time goes on. A road win against a ranked Houston team that had been playing some good football. Huge moment for the Mountaineers. Huge moment. But to me, this says a lot more about Houston. But there's also more to dissect there. Because for the Cougars, you had an opportunity to pull an Arizona State. That opportunity is gone. I'm not telling you not feel bad about that. I'm telling you, bad vibes for the fan base is where your head should be. However, remember that this is a program that doesn't have a huge tradition of college football in the last several years. They've got a solid one, but they're a basketball school. And Willie Fritz is in year 2. Everything this year is still progress. It's going to wind up being an 8 or 9 win season. This one hurts. You missed a chance for a magically special year. I'm not telling you to feel great about that. They have UCF, TCU, and Baylor home road to end the year. They'll win at least 1, maybe 2, but probably not 3 of those football games, and they'll wind up with an 8 or 9 win season. And you have to be able to compartmentalize, okay, there is disappointment, frustration with how the defense played. That's certainly something that needs to be improved for the Cougars going forward. West Virginia scoring 45 in their home field. That's just not any good. But you also have to understand, all right, it's not what we want, but this is still a great year. This is still the sort of season that you wanted to see from your head coach. And yeah, this is a disappointing outcome to be sure, but I don't view this as a program altering loss for the Cougars. You missed out on an opportunity to wildly outperform expectations, to be great, to have a special year, but was that what you were actually trying to accomplish this year? No, you missed out on dessert. You still got the appetizer. You still got the entree that you were looking for, but they ran out of the dessert back in the kitchen. You know what? You go, okay, that stinks because I was looking forward to that cinnamon bread pudding, but if all I get is, the meal that I ordered and it was great and the appetizer's good and my drinks got to be able to appreciate that. Here's the other thing I wanted to bring up with Houston. What's the maximum potential of the football program if you don't have a dangerous home environment? What is the upwards? Give me the program in college football that right now is pushing for or in control of a playoff spot, that when you go to their home stadium, it isn't raucous, rowdy, danger. BYU, for instance, Texas Tech, the 2 best teams in the Big 12. When you go, I believe they've rolled back the tortilla deal. That stinks for Texas Tech. But when you go to Lubbock or when you go to Provo, those fans are going to be on top of you. So let this be a holistic look at the program, not just from a football standpoint, but from a fan standpoint. You got to have more than what Houston. I didn't see what the actual listed attendance was in the game. But this is a program that should have a lot of life, a lot of juice, a lot of energy. And if you're going to build yourselves, which you can, into a top-tier team in the Big 12, you have to be able to get better fan support than what Houston had on Saturday. It just simply does. There should be a bunch of life and juice, and it was just flat, and then the defense played flat. I'm not saying a home crowd that is sold out making a bunch of noises worth 10 points, but it could be worth a possession. It could be worth a play, a moment, something here or there. And I think that's got to be a disappointing thing for Houston to have seen as well. So, speaking of teams in the state of Texas, did you see what North Texas did? They were one of my best bets this week. They did cover the 6.5, which was the final spread, according to our friends at FanDuel. North Texas and head coach Eric Morris, who might very well be the next head coach at Oklahoma State in the Big 12. Just saying. I'm throwing it out there. Here are the point totals. They won this game 31-17. I thought it'd be higher scoring than that, but I did think North Texas would win and cover because Navy's defense just can't stop anyone. And what do you know? Navy's offense didn't have its best day. North Texas defense got some work going there. But here are the point totals for Eric Morris's team this season. 51, 33, 59, 45, 36, 63, 55, 54, 31. Today, against Navy, who was previously undefeated, had won 10 straight games dating back to last year, North Texas scored their fewest points of the season, and they won by 14. That's not bad. Now, does North Texas have an incredible win? No. I'd say their best one is one of 2 in the American. They don't have the premier out-of-conference game that you'd like to have. They lost to South Florida, gave up 63 points in that game. Sorry, I said that earlier. That was how many points South Florida scored. Still, North Texas had 36 in that one. But UTSA, after they beat Tulane last week, that win looks a whole heck of a lot better. They beat them 55-17, by the way. 31-17 over 7-0 Navy. Not bad. 59-10 against Washington State that's probably going to be a bowl team with a Power 4-ish sort of schedule. I didn't even call it a Power 4 schedule this year. Washington State looks like they'll be a bowl team. That's probably the best win they've got. North Texas has got UAB and Rice on the road and then Temple at home. They should win all of those football games. Rice is probably the toughest of those three teams. You realize North Texas has just one loss. That if they wind up in the American Championship game, they have got every ability to wind up as the Group of 5 playoff team. I'm just throwing it out there because it's a very real possibility. And Eric Morris might be getting buzz and it could distract the team and they could stumble in one of their final three. But I'm telling you, as somebody who watch it, far be it from me to forget to remind you, the college football public, a Group of 5 teams automatically getting into the playoff. The North Texas team and the offense they have should not have any problem in the next 3 games. Maybe they get distracted because Eric Morris winds up as a candidate for Oklahoma State or Arkansas. Would Arkansas do another coach with the last name Morris? Maybe that wouldn't go over well. But if he winds up as a head coach somewhere else, that could derail the thing. But I'm just telling you, in the hunt to get one of those 12 playoff spots, North Texas is a player. If they can get themselves to the American Conference Championship game, they've got the head-to-head win over UTSA, who's got the head-to-head win over Tulane. The only loss is to South Florida. They could get a rematch with them in the conference championship game. I'm just saying, you got to watch out for North Texas. You really do. If you aren't paying attention to what they have done and what their quarterback, Drew Mestemaker, has been doing this year, a guy who's going to hit the transfer portal, I would guess, maybe North Texas has got some mean green pockets, shall we say. That's what they'll need to keep Mestemaker around, because maybe Morris and Mestemaker are going to be a package deal. Those are two guys that could be playing Power 4 football next season, and they could have plenty of success because they're having a lot of success right now. So that game caught my eye because that Group of 5 playoff race is tightening. I think you can eliminate Navy. We've seen this before from a couple different service academies. It'd be awesome for one of them to finish the job one day, but it's really, really difficult when you look at the other rosters they have to go up against in college football. So heck of a win for North Texas. Good vibe for the Mean Green fans and bad vibes for the midshipmen here. But we salute you anyway, as always. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.